everyone, and today we are looking at the last lie that Kent Hovind says science textbooks teach to children as propaganda. And it's a big one. It's one that Kent describes as the most dangerous one. Once again, I'm going to play this disclaimer from the last video because Kent Hovind's fans never listen, so here you go. Enjoy. Yes, I know he's making video responses to me. Yes, I'm aware he's acting like a child with titles like Destroying Rachel Oates and then picking out moments for the thumbnails where I'm pulling stupid faces. I've only watched a few minutes of the videos so far because I kind of got bored of them and he was either just like getting really personal with it for no reason or trying to sell his stuff, and I found that kind of boring. But yeah, a few of my fans have told me that his main criticisms of me are basically, I dye my hair and I have a weird accent. And I'm like, sorry mate, but I'm English. Like, if you don't like the English accent, get over yourself. And if you don't like the fact that I dye my hair, get over yourself. It's not a big deal. But once my planned series of videos on his book that I'm recording right now are finished and done, I may have a look at some of them, and if he has any legitimate points in them, I may respond to them, but we'll see what happens. And finally, no, I will not debate him, because debating's not really my style. And I think he's a bit of a douche, to be honest, so... And let's just jump into the book, yeah? Lie 18 is the last lie in the book, and it is, when you die, you cease to exist. Apparently this is a lie that textbooks teach to children. Science textbooks, that is. And apparently, according to Kent, this is one of the most dangerous lies textbooks teach. Not that it's like Kent to be overdramatic or anything. No. Now, ceasing to exist is a very interesting term. I'm not sure I agree with this point at all. I don't think I agree that science textbooks teach this. I think they definitely teach that there's no proof of a soul, to some extent. I think they teach that brain activity ceases when you die, and that consciousness is the result of brain activity. And I think they teach that when you die, your body decomposes. And I think to some extent they teach that there's never been any legitimate proof of an afterlife. But I'm not sure I like the term cease to exist. I know I'm kind of being pedantic, but that kind of implies you kind of poof into thin air, or you're immediately forgotten about, or something. I don't know, perhaps I'm just being pedantic, but I'm not sure I agree with the claim that textbooks teach that you cease to exist after you die. Now, for the sake of giving Kent the benefit of the doubt, we're going to take his point here to mean that science textbooks teach there's no afterlife, and look at it from that perspective, because, you know, we're being nice to him. And although that wouldn't be true either, I don't know, it might be more accurate to say something like, science has never been able to definitively, or even tentatively, prove the existence of an afterlife of any type, or even prove in any way there's life after death, whether that's reincarnation or whatever. Anyway, the point is, you can't argue with that, really. The point is, science textbooks don't teach there's definitive proof of an afterlife. We'll go with that. And so Kent then, goes on a rant about how we're all going to hell, or something. Whatever. He says, God created the universe and left us a record of how and why he did it. You were all created by an all-wise creator, and you will live forever in heaven or hell. All humans have broken God's laws by lying, cheating, stealing, etc. Speak for yourself, mate. Seriously. But again, can I maybe get, a little bit of actual proof of these outrageous claims, please? Being a just and holy God, he simply cannot overlook our sins. This is definitely something an abusive partner would say. Look, I'm doing it for your own good. It's because I love you that I can't let you get away with this. I've gotta punish you because I'm just. Either we must be punished by going to hell forever, or we must accept the perfect substitute God provided in Jesus Christ. Is there a third option, please? Satan is a liar. Satan is using lies to keep people from coming to Christ to be saved. Wait, let me guess, Kent. Your next claim is that I'm Satan's mouthpiece, right? Got it. In my 15 years of travelling and speaking on the creation-evolution subject, I've done 90 debates against people who believe in evolution. It's a shame you haven't learnt anything that time, really, isn't it? I often ask them the question, if evolution is true, how does anyone tell right from wrong? If evolution is true, there is no possible way to tell right from wrong. Survival of the fittest becomes the way of life. I've heard this so many times from so many people. It's such an old, stupid argument. Ken Ham uses it all the time. I've debunked it before with him. He had a whole chapter on it in his book. Kent here only has half a page, so yeah. Yeah, long-term viewers of mine will probably have heard this sort of stuff before, so if you have, I'm sorry if it's repetitive. I'll try and keep it quick and short and concise, and I will try and find out the Ken Ham video where I spoke about it in a bit more detail and link that below if I can. The only place to start with something like this is to remember. And this is a really, really big, important thing to remember that I think a lot of people forget, but it's so important in life, in science, not just on this topic, but in everything. Just because you don't like your perceived outcome of something, that has no impact on whether it's right or wrong or not. Not right or wrong in the moral sense, but in the objective, is it correct or not sense. Whether you think understanding and accepting evolution has an impact on people's behavior or not has absolutely no impact on whether evolution is real or not. And spoiler alert, it is real. So whether you like your perceived outcomes of it or not doesn't change the fact that evolution is a thing that happens. To say, if evolution is true, this bad thing happens, does not mean evolution is not true. But that aside, let's rephrase your question to something more legitimate, right? Let's rephrase it to the question, does evolution have any influence on how we tell right from wrong? And yeah, actually it kind of does. Kent claims if evolution is true, there's no possible way to tell right from wrong. And that claim is utter poop. Very small girl, you wanna come up? Come on then. Go on, baby. Come on, you can do it. Good girl. I got your bum. You're not gonna fall. You okay? You sleepy? You're a sleepy bean. So Kent is under the assumption that, Kent is under the assumption that morality must come from God, right? And that if there's a God, then he created the universe. They are basically Kent's assumptions, right? Therefore, by his logic, if the universe wasn't created by a God, then God must not exist. And so where do we get our morals from? Oversimplifying, probably some issues there, but that's basically the point. Take out the morality bit, and he's basically doing half the work for us atheists. Yeah. Morality is complex, and there are a lot of factors that go into deciding whether something is right or wrong or not. We don't even know for sure if morality is objective or subjective. There's arguments on both sides. There's no definite answers when it comes to morality, as much as some people want there to be. I don't have time to go into the whole philosophy right now, and honestly, moral philosophy is not my strong point. It's not my area of expertise by any means. But I can tell you for certain that morality comes down to a lot more than just a book says this, so we should do it or we'll all burn in hell. When evaluating whether something is morally right or wrong or not, we might think about what the consequences are for ourselves, for other people, for strangers, for animals, for the environment, for the people we care about. What is motivating our actions? How will our actions, or even our motives, our intentions, how will they affect other people and their options, their choices, their own actions as well? And so on. There's a hell of a lot to it. There's competing theories by very intelligent people. And like I say, a moral philosopher could talk about this stuff far better than I can. It's not my strong point. I know. But if we want to bring evolution into this and discuss how evolution affects behavior and our understanding of knowing right from wrong and evaluating right from wrong, then yeah, evolution does and has played a big part in that. Things are a little more complicated now that as a species, we've kind of reached a certain level of consciousness, and we've reached a point in our life where our survival is pretty much guaranteed for the near future and we're pretty safe. We have to remember, though, that life hasn't always been like this, and that in the past, the living conditions were different, our values were different, our needs were different, our goals were different. But in the past, and I'm talking, millions of years ago, not just last week. In the past, and the present for many species still, but especially in the past, the innate need of all living things was to pass on our genes to the next generation. That's being kind of ingrained in all of us. It's in our genes, essentially, you could say. If you only have a basic understanding of this, it would make sense to say that, well, if we evolved, then we must have evolved traits to stay alive and have babies. But that's a little too simplistic and simply not true. Passing on our genes to the next generation means a lot more than just individuals staying alive and having babies. It's about the population as a whole. It's about your species as a whole. It's about your family genetics as a whole. We evolved certain traits to thrive as a species on a population level. It's not just about individual survival and every man for himself. Survival of the fittest does not mean every man for himself. Not by far. It's less about the individual and more about the group in a lot of cases. This is how little family units and tribes and eventually larger societies started to develop, because we realized that babies and offspring had more of a chance of surviving if there were more people protecting them, more people bringing them food and so on. It made more sense to stick together, because that ensured more people's survival and more babies' survival and more babies being born. It made more sense to do this, to the point where it eventually became a trend and it became the norm and it became socially expected. We evolved quick unconscious reactions to immediately identify other people, other animals, just things in general, as either being part of our in-group or out-group. Are they one of us or are they different? We have these unconscious reactions in our brain when we see people. So we notice people who are similar to us, who we share more genes with, and we're warier of people who we have more different genetics with. It sounds a little bit horrible, but they were kind of the mechanisms in our brain that were there to keep us safe. We developed empathy and compassion for others who we know are part of our groups, our tribes, our families. Because if you're nice to people, if you look out for one another, the group stays safe. And if the group stays safe, you have more babies, and more of the babies are likely to survive, and your genes are going to be passed on to future generations. The point is, it's complicated, and a lot goes on. And while I'm not the best person to talk about moral philosophy, I can tell you a hell of a lot more goes into thinking about whether something is right or wrong or not than just whether it's in a book and whether we're going to burn in hell or not. We think a lot about how things are going to affect other people and how they're going to affect us, and we have evolved certain traits to want to protect ourselves and protect the ones we care about and so on, which is what influences our decisions about whether something is right or wrong or not. That makes sense? Kent goes on to ask, why would textbook authors teach lies just to get someone to believe in the theory of evolution? They wouldn't. No one would do that. No one is going to benefit from lying about evolution. That's just silly. You know why textbooks teach evolution? Because it's fact. And as much as Kent wants to deny it because it brings his religious ideas into question, he shouldn't. And he can't, really. And the fact that he is denying it says to me he's willfully ignorant, rather than, I don't know, he's just an idiot, isn't he? But he does try and offer some answers, right? So he says, textbook authors teach these lies because some people believe in evolution and teach it to others because that is all they have ever been taught. They simply do not know any better. Which is funny, because you could say the same about religion, couldn't you, mate? They may honestly not know that these things have been proven wrong years ago. They simply may not be up to date on the research. Does anyone else see the irony here? He has to be talking about religion now. Is Kent trolling us? He has to be trolling us with this. Look, and he goes on, right? If that is the case, we can fix that. They simply need to study the truth and stop teaching lies. If it happens that there's nothing left to support the evolution theory, well, I'm sorry. That's just the way good science works. If someone has a theory but no supporting evidence, that's their problem, not yours or mine. Kent, please listen to yourself. Everything you're saying is true of religion, not evolution. And this is exactly like the same arguments that atheists use against theist apologists. We have so much evidence of evolution, and we're gaining more and more every day, all the time. It's the religious stuff that's being disproven time and time again. Some people teach the evolution theory because their job depends on it. They may write things in book or teach things to students because they're required to. The fact that what they're teaching is wrong may or may not bother. Interestingly, this is what people say about Kent. So many of the comments I've got about him say how he can't actually believe any of this stuff that he's spewing. It's just crap. But he's so deep into it now, kind of like sunk cost fallacy, but also he knows people will eat it up and give him all the money for it. So he just keeps doing it because, dollar. They think they are obligated to teach these lies and brainwash you because that's what they have been hired to do. In many instances, Hitler's soldiers executing the Jews in the concentration camps felt the same way about their job. Look, another comparison between people who understand evolution and Nazis. We're all just Nazis, aren't we? Some people hope there is no creator because that may affect their lifestyle. These people are desperately trying to get others to believe in the theory of evolution because they apparently think if everybody believes it, then it will become true, and they cannot avoid accountability to the creator. It's nothing to do with hope. Either he exists or he doesn't. This is what I was saying literally 2 minutes ago. I go where the evidence points, and whether I want something to be true or not doesn't affect whether it is or not. There's no evidence for a god, so I don't believe in one, and I'm not going to change my life to follow the teachings of something for which I have no proof of. Then we have another Nazi comparison and a plug for one of his videos that he's trying to sell you. Finally, he writes, lastly, some people may be presenting lies in textbooks or classrooms simply because they have too much pride to admit they are wrong. If someone has been teaching something for years and years and realizes they are wrong in their mind, it may be easier to continue teaching this than admit they have taught something wrong for many years. So this is the sunk cost fallacy. But why do I feel like Kent is admitting to something without admitting it? Is it perhaps because he has too much pride to admit that he's wrong about evolution and creation? I mean, after all, when someone has been teaching something for years and years and realizes they're wrong, it might be easier to continue teaching it than to admit they have taught something wrong for many years. So revealing, Kent. Very revealing. Anyway, and this is where we're ending this video. We're starting to get towards the end of the book now, thankfully. In the next video, we are going to be talking about Kent's 3-step plan to stop your children from learning about evolution. Because, you don't want them thinking for themselves, do you? It's so much harder to control when they're well-informed. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you guys so much. Genuinely, down in the comments, let me know what you think of this idea. Like, is Kent just trolling us all? Does he actually believe this stuff or not? Or is he just kind of like that far into this now that he can't stop? And he's earning that much money from it that he can't stop? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But for now, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll see you again soon. Huge thank you to everyone supporting me on Patreon this month, with a special thank you going to Data Jack, Trae Sprowles, Gambit and his chauffeur, Liv's Pantyhose Addiction, Mark Dauner, Christian Berg, Nathalie Romer, Simon Lundh, Jadeon Sheppard, Robert Korte, Peter Kyrouac, Sir Michael Moore, Christina the Atheist, Sage Villarreal and Loren Hart. You guys and everyone supporting me on Patreon are absolutely amazing, and I couldn't do this without you, so thank you so much. And remember, if you are supporting me on Patreon, you can get exclusive access to my Discord server where you can come join in the conversation. So hopefully I'll see you guys over there. And thank you all so much!